The dog doesn't have them, but next door lives that little midget guy named Tattoo from that Fantasy Island show. That's stupid. Who cares? These are imaginary pets. Go ahead and be stupid. Think of things in movies that have struck you as arresting, interesting. I like that group of friends in Four Weddings and a Funeral. The way they're always together, whatever they're doing, the whole crowd's there. I think that's kind of charming. That would be fun in a story. John Travolta taking Uma Thurman out in Pulp Fiction. That's an interesting situation. She's attractive, but if he touches her, he'll be killed. I remember being struck by the scene in To Have and Have Not, Bogart movie. People have seen that, right? At one point in this Bogart movie, he's in a hotel room, and a bunch of Nazis break in with guns, and they say, you know, get up, you're coming with us. And he says, do you mind if I have a cigarette first? And they say, okay, have a cigarette. And so he pulls the drawer open, and the Nazis can't see, but we can see there's a gun in the drawer. And he reaches in, and he tilts it up against the other side of the table and swivels it back and forth, and then goes boom, boom, and the bullets explode up through the top of the table, and both Nazis drop dead. Now, when I saw that, I thought, what if that was a really solid desk?
Oops.
And so he says, do you mind if I have a cigarette? No, go ahead. Well, maybe I won't. Let's sign in here. Never mind. Big lighter flew up. Think reverse things. If something begins to look like a good idea, say, what would that be if you reverse it? I don't know. What does that even mean? I don't know. Make the character you were thinking of a man, make it a woman. If you were thinking of having a scene in which this guy was solo, have him not be solo. Have his whole damn family coming along while he's trying to secretly land a boat full of explosives in Albania. Have his grandmother, in fact, instead of him, be landing the boat full of explosives in Albania. These are imaginary bets. They don't have to be any good. You just want to get them all down. What if you take these two characters and combine them into one somewhat busier character? Or do the opposite, take one character and divvy his task up among a dozen of them? Sometimes I like to look at it and think, in what way is this collection of events you're looking at, I can't call it a story yet, in what way is it like photosynthesis? I think, well, none. Okay, well, in what way is it like how a reflector telescope works? It isn't. Okay, in what way is it like traffic congestion? But if you ask yourself about 20 of these questions, you'll say, well, okay, in what way is it like building furniture without nails, where you just use dry and green wood combinations? You know what? Yeah, that's it. It is like that. These are imaginary bets. You're postponing getting to real work. You're simply typing to the keyboard. It's valid. If anybody says what you do all day, you say work. You don't have to explain. Anyway, start with whatever of those three words I mentioned. Character, situation, problem. I mean, if you've got an interesting problem, let the other two things wait. Talk about the problem. If you've got an interesting character, talk about that. I usually don't decide what my character's actual job, my protagonist's job is going to be until very late, until I figured everything else out. Because I want him to arrive with enough expertise to be able to compete. But I also want him to arrive with enough areas where he doesn't know what's going on, so he'll have to learn what's going on, and the reader can kind of learn along with him. But very quickly, even though I don't know what he does for a living, very quickly I'll try to figure out my three or four or five main characters, and I'll write a little bio of each of them. This is a beautiful way to postpone work, because it really looks like you're doing something important. I want to know for each character, when were they born, where did they go to school, where did they grow up, any physical characteristics, etc. The sort of things that a biography would have. But, in addition to those, I want to know other things about this character. Does he Drink. Has he ever lived by the ocean? Does he like dogs? Does he go out with girls that talk a lot? Does he ride motorcycles? Did he ever? Is he a vegetarian? Random questions. Does he only wear some certain kind of orthopedic shoes? And for all the characteristics you give this character, you do this following thing. You say, for example, okay, our character George, is he married? Yeah. Why? Why? I guess he loves her. No, why really? And it's when you ask yourself, no, why really, that you're going to come up with some interesting characteristics about this guy. Does he drink? No. Why not? He gets drunk too fast. No. Why really? And then, God knows. I mean, does he have kids? No. Why not? Doesn't like them. No, why really doesn't he have kids? It's the insistent repetition that's going to lead you into some cool stuff. The main thing, though, that I want to know about each of these 3 or 4 characters, I want to know, what would he do anything on Earth to get? What would he bite his own fingers off to get? And, conversely, what would he do anything on Earth to avoid facing? These should ideally be simply opposites of each other. It would be nice to have the I desperately want it be a little bit at odds with the I would run over children to avoid facing it. For example, it'd be interesting to have a guy who was desperately afraid of death, signed up for having his head frozen and all that. But at the same time, won't rest until he has summited Mount Everest. It would be interesting to try to consolidate those two, make those compatible. Okay, at this point, you're beginning to get your characters down. I'll put 2 more here.